Thank you, everybody, and thanks for being so generous last night. That was quite the broken down little organ, but I enjoyed it a lot. I want to play for you two completely different pieces. First, something that I think captures the general attitude of EG really well, the Festive Overture by Dmitri Shostakovich. And then I've been composing a lot over the last year, and I wanted to play a new piece that I've written called The Younger Boy and the Older Boy. This is totally showing off, but let me show you what I actually do before the concert, which whenever I play, I don't come out. I do this backstage, but because it's EG, I'll do it here. Etc. It's a nice way of showing off, and it helps to work out the extra stress of playing a piece like that. Thank you. It's really an honor to be here at EG again this year and get to play the organ for you. I just want to tell you just the littlest bit about what I'm doing, because the organ, you know, is in strange ways interestingly related to a lot of the things that go on here. I could talk about Hollerith's tabulating machine and the Jacquard loom and how they directly gave way to what's behind me, particularly in this case, since this is a digital organ. And I'm convinced that, like so many things in our world, when something is done innovatively and digitally, it's done right in so many cases. And this is a really, I hate the word maverick actually, but it's a pretty heretical standpoint to take in the organ world, to say that you prefer the non-pipe organ to the, as some might say, real organ. But that leads us to the discussion of three interesting words, starting with real. And people often say to me, why don't you, what's with this digital organ? I mean, why don't you play the real organ? And to me, this is incredibly funny, because to say that a given organ is real, more real than another one, is to say that there are organs that are fake. And to me, the only organ that could really be fake is like a Hollywood stage set organ made out of paper mache. For instance, the organ that Captain Nemo plays in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. This is a fake organ. But the definition of organ is not a machine which makes music with pipes and air. It's actually kind of hard to define, but in my opinion, it's something that brings together in a sort of harmonic algebraic relationship these tonal resources, and they can be anything. They can be synthetically derived, or they can be pipes that were cast out of metal in 1400, and puts them in a sort of hierarchically arranged playing interface that allows the mind of the player to go in many different directions. This is why a Hammond organ is obviously a really important organ. You would never say that a Hammond organ was fake, because where would we be without Jimmy Smith? You would never say that, exactly. You would never say that a tracker pipe organ in Switzerland that was built in 1300 was fake, because where would we be without Froberger and Buxtehude and all the people who came before Bach? But for me, the absolute height of organ building is the virtual pipe organ. It's something that takes the digital organ even a step further by not only using samples that are recorded from organs all over the world and potentially thereby archivally preserving them, but also because it models, if you want it to, of course, all of the behaviors that a wind-driven organ, or as I often like to say, a physical organ, entails. And this allows you to potentially, I keep getting to the potential, travel with an instrument. When you watch Anna Lee, as I have loved to do, play the violin, you will notice that the first thing she does is walks on stage with the violin. And this is an incredibly important thing. Thousands of people go to concerts and watch YouTube and never think about the fact that when you listen to, for instance, Joshua Bell, I often make Joshua the comparison to you and your instrument, you know, because you own your instrument. When you walk on stage with this thing, you're playing for us, as is Anna and so many of my instrumentalist friends, an instrument that they own. You know, if you hear a recording by your favorite musician, they're probably playing an instrument that they may well play when they get up at 3 in the morning and they're stressed out because they can't sleep because they're thinking about their relationship or you know, whatever. And they turn to their, you know, instrument and they play. And they commune and they have an intimacy that is then reflected, and I believe this very deeply, when they're on stage. Now, this may be the greatest organ in the world, but I met it yesterday. And I can give you a sort of an idea of what I do by playing it. And I can give you a sort of an idea of the potential of this organ, not more. I cannot give you the same thing that I would give if I was playing an instrument. And to me, ownership is not the point, it's the intimacy. And of course, the organ is this enormously huge, weighty instrument. They're permanently installed when they're pipe organs. And the non-pipe organ is new enough in thinking that, as I said, it's still heretical. But let me show you what I've been working on for a year. I want to build an organ that will be transportable easily, and the technology allows it to be done for the first time. With Dick Cavett, you know, Dick Cavett had the great American organist Virgil Fox on his show, I think in the late 60s or early 70s. And Virgil at that point played an instrument that was analog. It had these enormous ferrite cores and transistors in it, and the thing weighed 1,800 pounds. So this guy traveled around the country with this. Incredible to think about. It was the first touring organ. History, of course, will be changed if we can do what I'd like to do, because technology has, of course, advanced so much. And as much as I love the appearance of the traditional organ, my hope is to have an organ that reflects aesthetically and in its design the potential that I think it can reach, and it should look really, really cool. So basically, I wanted to build an organ that splits into its component parts. In the case of the virtual pipe organ, this is very simply the console, which is what I play, the computer, which is in an anvil case somewhere, and the speakers. The important thing starts with the console, because it itself splits into parts that can be removed and taken in and out of any door. This is hard to get in your house, and it might not be easy to get in any concert hall in America if they don't have the right kind of loading dock. So here's the pedal board. This is an overhead view, and forgive my really crude illustrations, but here's the pedal board. And this is really important because I really like to play with my feet. So you start with the pedal board, and then you add, oops. Well, these are out of order, but you get the idea. That comes later. You add 5 keyboards, because 3 is not cutting it, people. And then, so the 5 keyboards are added. And actually, I'm developing a technique where you can play 3 keyboards at once with one hand. It's not as hard as you would think. They have to kind of slope like this. Then you add to this a big chunk of stops on the sides, and this is in a modular thing with these really sharp angles. And there's about 300 stops on the organ. These, of course, since they're virtual, can be reconfigured at any time. You can load an ancient organ from northern, from Holland. You can load a theater organ, like a really big version of what I played last night. Or, as I want to do, you can create an instrument that's unique and that only you play. So there's another one that goes on the other side. These, of course, bolt together, and there's an undercarriage that supports it. And this is what it looks like. So this is, of course, just a really crude sketch, but there's a company that I've worked with in Berlin, outside of Berlin, who's agreed to build just this thing, if we can support it. Then you take 24 of these incredibly badass speakers built by Behringer, and then 4 of these even more badass subwoofers built by Definitive Technologies. I'm not plugging their products, but you might know them. This has 2,000 watts of power, so there would be 8,000 in the bass alone. And then you put it inside my dad's truck and his trailer, and you've got a touring organ. So this is, of course, what I would hope to play at EG's in the future. And if you're interested in it, please talk to me, because it's my abiding passion. I believe that organists should have the right to have instruments with which they have as intimate a relationship as the lowliest bassoonist or flutist. Would you like me to play Bach quickly, Mike?
Yeah, play a favorite Bach.
All right, we have just a little time. I was going to play a huge Bach work, but I won't. Instead, I will play, because Mike is next, Mike Lawrence, with his Bach film. I'm going to play one of his favorite preludes and fugues. I'll just play the fugue from the Well-Tempered Clavier. This is, as he may state, or you may already know, the Well-Tempered Clavier is one of the really fundamental accomplishments in human thought in Western music. It's a set of 48 preludes and fugues that J.S. Bach wrote. In fact, he wrote 2 sets of 24, one in the beginning of his life and one later on, partly to demonstrate that all of the different keys could be used in playing music. This was kind of a novel concept in the 17th century. And this is a particularly joyful one. It's the fugue number 5 in D major, and it's one, this prelude and fugue Mike actually uses in a theme song sort of way in the Bach movie. But it's one of my favorites. Originally written for harpsichord, arranged by me for organ, not leaving out the feet.